It's another week and another day for you to bring all your positive energy to play. Good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine Daily. My name is Janice Kobum and we're super delighted to have you join us once again on the show. Welcome.
Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akpabio State. It's a beautiful, brand new week, a bright Monday to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Uyai Anyeka, and thanks for joining us. Of course, please do feel free to follow us across all social media platforms. Like, share, comment. And also, in the course of the program, our phone lines will be displayed on the screen. Please feel free to call in, send in your WhatsApp or text messages, and would gladly take in your contributions on the issue today.
Yeah, definitely. Decided to go out to town and more like savor the nightlife in Uyo,
Oh
and it
wow.
was fantastic. Yeah, it
Oh.
was really fantastic. And I was like, come on, is this what I've been missing all this while?
Oh, nightlife.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I think severing the nightlife around here would be like you've got to have a car, not like trying to do that hopping like from one. No, I don't
Yeah,
have the strength
yeah,
for that.
definitely. But
But
there's something I noticed about your nightlife.
mhm.
So there's a particular time, people begin to troop out. So it's not
Okay.
like, oh, you're beginning your nightlife at about 6 or 7 in the evening. Nah. When you want to start nightlife, you like start like 8 o'clock,
Really?
9 o'clock. Yeah, that's what I noticed yesterday though.
I feel
That's what I
like
noticed
I feel
yesterday.
like
I'm
once
like,
it's
where's everybody? So
from
why is
8 o'clock, everybody's beginning to find their
to
way to their
to
houses.
roast to
Yes,
dusk?
yes.
That's not true. Seriously, that's not true. Yeah, I was surprised. I'm like, okay, so this is kind of different. So people begin to come out around, 8 o'clock,
Mhm.
9 o'clock, about that time, and then you find everywhere tick, 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 and people having fun and all of that. But it's good. It's good because crowd is or what the people believe in around here,
Okay.
right? And I was told that somewhere in Enugu, right, that before they begin to come out for nightlife in Enugu and you want to get meaningful stuff out of the crowd,
Mm.
okay, you have to start coming out from 10 o'clock in the night.
That would definitely not be aquarium. Even if I don't get the
10 o'clock in the
eight.
night.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's definitely not aquarium. I tell you a story quickly. Now, in Ibiakuran, right, if you want to get an event done, don't even bother putting it during the afternoon. Don't even bother putting it early in the evenings.
Mm.
Just take it to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night.
I need to do environmental
Yes.
training. Even in aquarium, it feels like I'm living in another orbit because I
Put
don't
it around
get.
that time, around
Mm.
10 o'clock, because one, I ask questions, they tell
Mm.
you, okay, so everybody's busy during the day.
Yeah.
And so if you get to put your event maybe during the early hours of the afternoon or early evenings, right? Late hours of the afternoon and early evenings, you definitely not find anybody
Oh
because
wow.
everybody is trying to like do one thing or the other, But when once the event starts at about 10, fantastic. You get to see people have come home, rested enough, and they are able to like come out for your event. So
Oh wow.
I'm like, okay, new
That's
stuff.
a lot. Now I've learned a new one. That's why
Yeah.
we come on Rise and Shine. Okay.
Anyways, how was your weekend?
My weekend was great.
Yeah.
Adventurous, but it was a good one. Just trying out, new sports, new activities,
Mm,
meeting new people.
yeah.
So it was fun. And then trying other things like I had a saloon experience, so I'm
Okay.
like, oh
You're
wait,
not going to do that again.
that saloon experience had to be the height of my week. I had to sit down, just like, let's do it.
Okay. But next time, I think you just have to walk away. Walk away. Yeah,
Really?
I think I went to buy something somewhere the other
Mm,
day, and quick one. Maybe the person knows where I work,
okay.
and there's this thing about television
Mm.
people. Oh, we have so much money and all of that, and so she hikes the price to 25,000, and I'm like 25,000
For what?
for what exactly? I just carried my bag and walked out,
Yeah.
and in my head, that's the last time I'm coming there. I felt like blocking her on WhatsApp as well, but because of the
Good mind.
Christianity in me, I decided to allow her. Anyways,
Uh,
good morning once again and welcome to Rise and Shine Day. Daily. Just an early morning banter between I and, of course, the gorgeous Uyai this morning on set. And yeah, of course, you know that on Rise and Shine, serious business we talk about here. And today is not going to be an exception because the entourage that was in London for the coronation of King Charles III.
Is it Long Live the King?
Yeah, Long Live the King.
Long Live the King.
Yeah, Long Live the King.
I saw all kinds of videos around, the King's coronation. I had a friend who was watching on his, TV and then videoing his own activities towards the coronation.
Nigerians can be.
And I'm like, what is all this? But it was a good outing.
Yeah.
A lot of representation.
Definitely.
And I think it's, of course, a very historic one for
70 now.
over 70 years, right? It was the mother that was 100, you know. So all of those years and having to come do this again, it must have been nostalgic for some people. And they don't even forget that certain controversies also spewed out on the heel of that. You know, there were accusations of, all of the African heritage and all of the African money is what you are spending during all of this. But it was colorful to watch nonetheless, and a historic event for the UK government and the British people.
Yeah, definitely. And of course we saw the president of the clergy that was also part of, the procession. It was a Nigerian clergy now that was also part of the procession. It was beautiful to see. And then of course our own Tiwa Savage who had to perform yesterday night as well at Windsor Castle. It was also beautiful to see that Nigerians were well represented in all of the activities that happened. But just like you said earlier on, there's been a lot of criticism that has trailed this particular coronation, one of which was the fact that the coronation itself was too expensive considering all the monies that it gulped, and a lot of twists and turns, in this particular one too. Yeah, a lot of, twists and turns in this particular coronation as well. I think the concert that was held yesterday wasn't something that you normally used to be before, but that's just a new addition to it and all of that. But it's beautiful to see much more people paying allegiance to the king this time around, other than what was King Charles III and of course his queen, the queen consort, Queen Camilla. Now there's a different twist to the Queen Camilla story, but I don't want us to go into that right now. But let's just go into our flash news this morning. Definitely Nigerians will always look for something to cause cruise, but let's not talk about that.
I definitely will look for that, but then this is more like, the king's reign has indeed started, because now he can dip his hand into certain other things, because I mean the more like the anointing of the the seat has been put on him. So congratulations once again. But then moving to flash stories, Nigeria, we are thankful 424 Nigerians evacuated from Sudan, of course, arrived Abuja, and in total now we now have 1,471 evacuees that have arrived so far. Now the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission NIDCOM says another set of Nigerians evacuated from Sudan, of course, had arrived. Now the commission said in a Twitter message on Sunday that 424 Nigerians were evacuated from Egypt and arrived at about 12:30 p.m. in Nigeria via Asman and Taco Airlines. Now the evacuees were the 6th and 7th batches of Nigerians to have arrived in the country since the evacuation exercise started on May 3rd. Okay, so this is like basically it. 1,471 people have already arrived, and then we are looking at the fact that several breakdowns just continue to happen, but we see this is good number, just different breakdown. 99 people followed the jet C-113, 277 followed the Taco Air 130. So just a number of breakdown, but in total we have 1,471, I beg your pardon, that have arrived. Now as today we are expecting Air Peace to land with some more people, and that is great news so far.
Anyways, I think more great news is the fact that no Nigerian life has been lost so far, and it's beautiful to see But there's another story to this particular one. The fact that the NIDCOM boss now, Nabike Dabere, is saying that the evacuees need some form of counseling, more like they've gone through a lot of psychological traumas. I remember also the evacuees trying to recount their ordeal, in the borders of Egypt and all of that. It was terrible for them, but psychological counseling, I think it's a good one too. Of course, the chairman and chief executive officer Nigeria in Diaspora Commission, Nidcom Abike Dabiri, disclosed that the returnees will undergo trauma counseling. She was speaking on Saturday. She said there will be trauma counseling for all the returnees because they have gone through a lot of traumas. She also says watch out for more information on various websites of the emergency team on various counseling for everyone. We are talking to Dangote and some other NGOs about that as well. A total of 637 evacuees have been evacuated back home from Egypt and Port Sudan since the country started airlifting on Wednesday last week. I think this is great news, Oya, if you ask.
It's actually great news, and I like the fact that they paid attention to post-traumatic situations, and having the evacuees to be analyzed, and someone talking to them through all of that is very important, especially the fact that we are going to reintegrate them back into this. Might have traveled from different provinces to come to be evacuated, and you do not know how intense it was in their different areas at a time like this. So what do we call it now, the counseling and the post-trauma evaluation that the federal government is saying they are going to undergo, I think is very commendable, and we hope that the minders of the system actually get the work done thoroughly. And that's one thing. Now the government offering to do that is one thing. The evacuees knowing that they need that, and accepting it, coming forward for it is another thing. Because some people might just feel like,
there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not mad.
Leave us with this, or you will like. Do you understand?
Yeah.
We like to call like counseling, therapy, and all the likes. Like, I mean, it's the Western people that like all those things, but you do not know how far-reaching that can help us as an individual. So I do hope that the evacuees actually make use of that opportunity as provided by the federal government. But thank God, so far more people are being evacuated. They've all landed safely, and the federal government is continuing to make steps to make their lives very comfortable. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
From the 100,000 naira welcome gift to data to recharge cards. Now, some people, would you think?
Yeah, kind of blessing in disguise. But again, I think this is just more like what your country needs to do for you, and not necessarily trying to bless you with anything, right? So I think that these are like basics any country would do for their citizens to make sure that they get reintegrated back into society, knowing fully well that they've been out of the country for so long and all of that. So more like, let's give you hands on what to do so that you don't become a nuisance to the country and all of that. Because definitely you take these people out from a particular war-torn area, bring them back home without anything. They're leaving that particular country that there was issues and coming back home without anything. So it's always difficult. Where do you find money to begin to take care of yourself, or even begin to think of a way out, getting a livelihood and all of that? But again, if you ask me, 100,000 naira, what would that fetch anybody at this point
it's
in
more
time?
like that 100,000 is more like, take this money, find your way, pay to your house.
To your house. It's more like transport.
Yeah, it's more like transportation, and then you don't know where all these people live all together. And let's not forget the students. Most of them, are actually students. So we are looking at integration into Nigerian schools. How is that going to be
possible?
Because Dabiri where I had mentioned they have already spoken to the NUC and certain federal universities, but the students coming back from Sudan, do they really want to go to school in Nigeria? But then you have to, it's an opportunity that the federal government has provided to make your life easy, because we don't know how long this crisis in Sudan is going to continue for you to be able to get back to school and all of that. Some people's lives might have changed forever, by the reason of this crisis. So we just hope that, everyone can just take advantage of everything that is, available for them by the federal government. But great moves. But moving to our story for the morning, and that will be the fact that today, tribunal pre-hearing begins, tribunal pre-hearing begins, and that is would you call it a breath of fresh air?
Yeah, definitely more like a breath of fresh air at this point in time. I know that a lot of Nigerians have been on the fact that, look, let the tribunals begin. Let us see what the court is going to do at this particular time and all of that. But you know that we were having conversations last week where a lot of callers were of the opinion that, look, whatever looks like a pre-election or a post-election issue now should have been wrapped up,
Way before
before now, so that when once it's May 29, because there's so much uncertainty in the air, whether we like it or not. There's just so much uncertainty in the air. Some Nigerians are of the opinion that the inauguration is not going to hold and all of that. But even though we are just keeping cross fingers as to what will happen on May 29. Now, I know that the federal government have tried to allay the fears of Nigerians towards any breakout of issues, with the security agencies saying they are on their alert in case anything happens, but that there's going to be an inauguration on the 29th of May. But some Nigerians are still of the opinion that they do not actually know what is going to be happening. But the good news is that, of course, today, which is the 8th of May, the petition tribunal is going to kickstart. And of course, it was on the news the other day, yesterday actually, that the judge that will be presiding over that matter decided not to divulge the names of members of the tribunal.
Council.
Yes, she kept it close to her chest so that there will not be any form of interferences of any sort.
Oh, I think that's intelligent, and I also think it's beautiful to hear that is a woman that is presiding. A lot of controversy too is also spewing. I don't know if you read the comments by Nyesom Wike about the fact that he was mentioning that a certain candidate was the one who won the elections, and I'm worried. More like Wike is like still spewing a lot of controversies at this time. I mean, the president-elect was just in his state last week, and today we are hearing, spate of the fact him pointing to another person. So at this point now, I just brought that up to say that the tribunal hearing that is starting today is really going to help to lay to rest a lot of controversies and unanswered questions around the elections. And we all might agree that the timing seems poor because I mean inauguration is in the next couple of days, but we must what we are going to be hearing and what is going to be tendered there. So this is very, very important. And okay, there was a thought that came to my mind. It's absolutely skipped, but this is a good place to start. Okay, we're talking about the fact that the media had requested that this hearing be done open so that the media can cover real time and Nigerians can follow,
The process.
yes, the
and
process,
proceedings.
and everyone can see for themselves.
Yeah.
But so far so good. I do not know if they've given a stamp to that, and if
The presidential candidate of the PDP, that's Atiku Abubakar, have also filed an application order to allow live coverage of the day-to-day proceedings on the case they brought against President-elect. And also, I think other people now are also, following on that shoot. But definitely, Atiku Abubakar is one person that is pressing, for the open proceedings, for the public to follow the proceedings of the court cases. I just hope that it happens. When we remember the tribunal of Justice Oputa back then, it was something that was live for everybody to follow, and see how proceedings ensued. So if this is also open to the public, I think it will, to a great extent, bring about that trust in the judicial system again, in Nigeria. So I think making it open will be great, but let's see how it turns out though.
well, of course, and also we have other agencies and organizations that are also suing and asking questions with regards to the February 25 elections. And this is the first leg of the hearing that will bring us to certain judgments and responses at the end of today. What are we expecting today? Of course, a senior lawyer in Tinubu's camp, who was asked not to be named, gave a report that the only thing they will do is to schedule the hearing, the number of witnesses, how many minutes the witness will use, and how to admit the documents. That's what they call pre-trial. Now they are going to prepare a timetable for the hearing of the cases, the number of days to be spent by the petitioners, the number of days to be spent. There is an objection, of course. So just what the proceedings of today is going to be like. Now, will the court write a ruling on objection immediately, or will the court write it in the course of the main judgment? Those are things that will happen today. So today is more like a real big fingers crossed, and Atiku Abubakar's petition is 66 pages.
Oh, wow.
Now he's praying that the tribunal declare him winner of the poll or order fresh election. Now that's Atiku Abubakar's petition. Now Peter Obi's petition
side, and then the inauguration on May 29th. This is where a lot of Nigerians are of the opinion that there should be no inauguration. But again, you cannot leave governance, you cannot leave leadership, that vacuum shouldn't be there. While Nigerians are saying we don't want an interim government, then definitely there has to be a swearing in of a president. So I think the point that some people have argued is that, look, when you put a precedent there and you know that his case is in court, there is bound to be some kind of interferences, because of course he has assumed that position of leadership as the #1 man in the country. So how and then again, when we even talk about immunity, I don't know, but there's some kind of argument that okay, there's going to be an immunity that would cover him, but again, much more like an interference with the whole judicial process.
The questions are great and enormous at this time. We just do hope that, more like the judiciary is the last hope that we have in all of this, and we hope that they can unapologetically, do their job. And we do hope that, like you're raising, no question of immunity for, the president or anything like that will cover him. Should affect how the proceedings are carried out. Not that, oh, he's now the president, so we now have to start working on eggshells around the case.
Definitely.
Yeah, Nigerians are watching. And today is going to be a big screen day, because everybody's going to be looking to expectant, especially because we have like different camps in these cases: the obedience, the articulated, the batified. I think everybody should just keep calm, let the proceedings go, and then we get to see where this is leading us as a country. Because if we suddenly start heating up the conversation on social media, oh, it's going to be us the batified, it's going to be us the articulated, or the obedience for that matter, everybody just lay low. Let the presiding judge be the one to tell us, how this case is navigated.
I think that's why some Nigerians are saying, look, let the proceedings be open. And aside from that, that a lot of international communities are also interested in the court proceedings. So, because when we go back to even the elections, that the international communities had their own reservations concerning the elections. So why don't we make it open in such a way that everybody is watching at the same time and following at the same time, so that people don't come out with different interpretations and different informations. Some informations might not just be correct.
Exactly.
We begin to
have thing we need to be careful of.
Yes, we need to be very, very careful. We'll have situations where people come out and say, oh, the court did this, and at the end of the day the court comes out to debunk it. Oh, we did not. So why not just make the proceedings open so that everybody follows at the same time, and then the information is real time as well. But we'll just take a pause to that now and look at the case of the aquarium madus when we talk about organ harvesting and all that followed that issue. A 21-year-old man was taken to the United Kingdom in the pretense that he was going to go get some job, not knowing that he was going for organ harvesting, and under the Modern Day Slavery Act in the UK, that is not acceptable at all. But we see that the court on Friday had sentenced former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu to 9 years and 8 months in jail for plotting to harvest a man's kidney for his sick daughter. Meanwhile, Ekweremadu's wife, Beatrice, was handed 4 years, 6 months sentence, while Obin now betted of conspiracy to arrange the travel of a young Nigerian man who was identified as David Nwamini to Britain in order to exploit him for his kidney. Now, the organ was needed for Ekweremadu's sick daughter Sonia. The trial lasted. Conviction is the first under the UK's Modern Slavery Act 2015. And of course, the sentencing comes after pleas from multiple prominent personalities and institutions, including former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Other petitioners include both chambers of the National Assembly, the chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Nika Mabike Dabiri, and of course the International Human Rights Commission, IHRC. Now, yeah, the good works, that Ekweremadu had done in the past before the court in London now. To be able to plead for clemency and all of that, but it's like it just fell on deaf ears. But again, if you ask, I think that they were actually moderate.
We expect that all of the pleas that were sent by the House of Representatives and all of the other statements have actually been considered. So that's why we see that the sentence has actually been reduced for all three of them. It's such a pitiable situation, I must say, because also there are all kinds of allegations flying around the Ekweremadu situation, but it worries me to depend on Nigerian soil. But I mean, all the way to the United Kingdom, and you are nabbed by the United Kingdom. Well, so it's a sorry situation. 9 years for Senator Ekweremadu himself, about 6 years for his wife, and then the doctor back 10 years. Well, that's the situation of things. Now, like you said earlier about the coronation of the king, let's see if there is any kind of pardon, that might come to them. On big days, usually amnesty is given to some king, yes. But then that's what's the current state of things are. This is where the story has developed to. They have been put behind bars, and these are the various number of their sentence years. Let's see if leniency comes along the way, or else we are looking at the fact that for the next couple of years they'll be behind bars.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, the legal practitioner Kayode Ajulo was person that said that with the coronation of King Charles III, there might just be some leniency if it is properly applied for. Yes, if it is properly processed, that there could be some leniency there. It says there must be a way out. King Charles's coronation is an opportunity for a pardon request. So
who is going to lead for the pardon? Because we need, is it the Ekweremadu's legal team that would do that, or is there any other body that is going to be saddled with that responsibility? How willing?
Emotional, having to see that it was because of how her parents were going behind bars. So traumatically too, she's going down, plus her ill health, she's still going through dialysis and all of that. So it's really not easy. So whatever it is that looks like an open window for them to cash in on, definitely they'll have to cash in on it to see how, if someone is saying that, look, there could be pardon request because of the coronation. Don't forget also that Nigeria is under the Commonwealth nations is under the United Kingdom as well. So more like they could use that opportunity. I know also that during the coronation of the king, it was also said that since all the heads of heads of governments will be around, they are going to also use that as a Commonwealth, an opportunity for the Commonwealth of Nations to also meet situations. But then again, most importantly as well, I think lessons should be learned from all of what is happening. When we say that, because the argument has been that, look, if our health sector was working, they wouldn't have actually gone out of the country, to seek medical help for their daughter. It would have been done in the country as well. So, and then of course we know that kidney donation is not supposed to. They get to check properly, okay? They get to check properly if you're not under any form of coercion, okay? And then you donate freely. So it's not something you buy. But when we look at, the case of Ekweremadu, of course, that money was linked in all of this about, I think, is it $8,000 or thereabout and all of that. So that's where we are in the case. And then we just hope that going forward, if there's a window for a pardon request, then the Ekweremadus should actually cash in on it, whether it's their lawyers or the federal government or anybody. it should be cashed upon.
It will help to see a turnover just for the sake of, Sonia, their daughter, not necessarily because Nigerians or the Nigerian government is trying to say that we toy with, people erring along the lines of the laws. That's not, really the situation. Because what are the guarantees? I mean, count the odds that could be pitched against the family. Her parents being put away for several years. What's the guarantee that she's going to bounce back?
Want to come back to Nigeria again? Of course, I read something that said that he says, oh, he should be granted like an asylum now for him to stay in the UK, get a job to do because his life is under threat. He can't come back to Nigeria. He might be killed. So that's another narrative. Nigerians are of the opinion that he's trying to be smart, with all of the things that has happened so far. He's just trying to be smart. But some people are saying, of course, he's telling the truth.
His life, argument.
Yes, his life could be at stake
Fair
at the moment. So that's where we have it.
Wow, that's a lot, but that's a really fair argument.
Yeah.
Whether he's being smart or not, his argument is fair. And if he was smart enough to think of the argument, we give it
Kudos
to him.
to him as
Yes.
well.
So, but that's basically all that is happening at this point. Let's quickly get to the news brief desk. Mary Joseph is on standby to bring us tidbits of global news. And when we return, Spotlight Daily, several other conversations will be coming to you on Rise and Shine this morning. To stay with us.
of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
Disasters being Lagos, Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 45 seats and still counting.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news brief on Spectrum, live from Uyo. I am Mary Joseph. First in the news this morning is a report that the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal Abuja will today begin pre-hearing of the petitions challenging the outcome of the February 25 presidential elections. Recall that the Independent National Electoral Commission declared that Bola Tinubu of the ruling All Progressives Congress polled 8,794,726 votes to win the election. In a separate development, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, has said Nigerians will not die but will adjust to the economic failure to Nigeria, but were a global phenomenon caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. Meanwhile, the federal government has said all Nigerians fleeing the insurrection in Sudan but got stranded at the Egypt border have been airlifted and brought back to Nigeria. The Permanent Secretary, Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Nasser Sani Gwazo, who stated this, said a total number of 1,471 Nigerians have so far been evacuated and brought back to Nigeria from Egypt and Port Sudan in 5 days. To health, the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control is soliciting the cooperation of stakeholders and the general public to rid the country of hazardous pesticide. The agency's Director General, Prof. Mojishola Adeyeye, said this in a statement issued to newsmen by its resident media consultant, Mr. Olusayo Akintola, in Abuja. According to her, pesticides are applied both indoors and outdoors for the management of pests, vector-borne diseases, and the crops protection. Adeyeye said pesticides are sometimes impregnated in textile, paint, carpet, and treated wood to control pests and fungi. Heading now to the foreign scene, Texas authorities have named a heavily armed gunman who killed 8 people, including children, at the Dallas shopping mall as Mauricio Garcia, aged 33. According to President Joe Biden, the gunman in Saturday's attack used an AR-15 style rifle, and war combat coach Duncan Curry says he is proud of his players and the fight they showed despite losing 3-2 to Nigeria in the second Group B match at the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, and their chances of progression now hanging in the balance. The young Bafana had to wait for the result between Cameroon and Burkina Faso on Sunday to know their fate as they made it into the last 8 as one of the 2 best third-place teams. We'll have details of these stories and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Janice and Uyai on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
Government, Secretary General, as of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
Disasters being Lagos, Nigeria for Spectrum TV to recover 45 seats and still counting.
Many thanks for still being there. Of course, it's still Rise and Shine Daily, and we just came off the news brief desk with Mary Joseph, giving us tidbits of different things happening, of course, in the country and globally as well. And just to keep you up to speed with some of the very interesting conversations we've had this morning, of course, on our flash news, 424 Nigerian evacuees arrived Nigeria from Sudan yesterday, making it a total of about 1,600 and something numbers there that have been evacuated from war-torn Sudan in a couple of days that the evacuation actually started. And of course, still on the heel of the Sudan returnees, we saw that Abike Dabiri is also asking that the returnees undergo a trauma counseling, which is also very good for them. Moving forward, we talked about the fact that the pre-elections tribunal hearings, of course, will be starting today, and Nigerians are keeping fingers crossed to exactly what is going to be the details of the proceedings today. But they've also asked that of Ikekwe Madu, his wife Beatrice, and of course Dr. Betta, that have been served jail terms for different years for organ harvesting. And that's what our rundown looks like this morning. But quickly now, we go to Daily Spotlight, where we get to bring you some information making it on the front pages of our national dailies. So stay with us.
Daily Spotlight. Let's start with this day newspaper this morning, the front page of this day. Big story there. Okay, we have here 10th National Assembly. APC NWC meets today to ratify consensus zoning. Okay, leadership tussle worsens as 68 senators elect reject deal. Group warns Tinubu party not to plunge themselves into crisis. Southeast senators caution president-elect against injustice. ACF disassociates self from ex-Niger Delta minister's endorsement in export. Tasks incoming administration on public-private partnership. I think that's very important. PDP, APC plotting to influence outcome of petitions at tribunal. That story can be found on page 12. Of course, the alarms have started blaring already. Badaru to Wike, thank you for helping APC sabotage PDP in River State. Buhari directs NUPRC to take over supervision of all crude oil export terminals. Functions overlap with NMDPRA resolved. We also see here, of course, there's a picture story there of Peter Obi presidential. We have here over 143 passengers escape death as Max Air crash lands in Abuja. Wow, pitiable situation. Thank God for,
No life
safety.
being
Yeah,
lost.
no life being lost. Wow. Okay, that's all the stories that we have on the front page of this.
Okay, we go over now to your next paper, which is the Daily Sun. The big story on Daily Sun says Southeast senators demand Senate president seat, and the writer says Hinge claim on excluding zone from power equation. APC Senate caucus splits. And then we have that, of course, the story you can find on page 6 and 29 of Daily Sun. Moving forward, henchman kill husband, wife, 5 others in 3 Benue communities. Quite a terrible story there. You can find that on page 4. Sudan crisis. 1,471 Nigerians arrive Abuja. And of course, the writer says ACF hails Air Peace and federal government. You can find that story on page 28. Fuel subsidy. CISLAC queries $800 million World Bank loan for Nigerians. You can find that story on page 28. Aircraft tire burst into flames on landing at Abuja Airport, and NSIB probes incident. Page 2 is where you find details of that story from. PDP alleges plots to influence presidential election tribunal. Page 28 is where you get details of that story. And lastly, this morning on the Daily Sun, accident on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway claims 3 lives. Page 4 is where you get that from.
This one, assets declaration. That's still an issue on the table. CCB tells Tinubu others to submit forms before May 29. Asset declaration ongoing in 36 states. No swearing in without form submission, says CCB. Bureau says defaulters risk removal from office. 40 Ogun 6 months. Page 9. Protest as Northwest backs Akpabio for Senate presidency. Page 7. My ordeal with aggressive breast cancer, dear Zeni. Okay, page 12. We also have fuel-laden tanker crashes around Lagos Ibadan Express traffic. Federal government elites 888 Nigerians from Egypt plans more evacuation. Page 31. Osimhen from Lagos Street hawker to Serie A goal king. Page 3. Osimhen was a big deal last week. Ooh.
Yeah, definitely, and over the weekend as well.
Oh my God, it was something else. Passengers stranded, flights grounded as federal government shuts Abuja.
Story here is on Senate presidency. It says Southeast Caucus kicks against Akpabio, demands seats. You can find details on page 5. The writer of that particular story says wants Tinubu to ensure country continues to thrive on part of equity, unity down over Abbas. Okay, and of course we hear that the letterings are quite tiny, so we just move forward. Now 150 escape death as Max airplane's tire burst during landing at Abuja Airport. We have that over 30 minutes gun duel. NDLEA seizes 8,852 kilogram illicit drugs in Lagos. 1 killed as police rescue 58 kidnapped victims in Kogi Forest. Many congratulations there to the Nigerian security system for doing that one. Let's move forward to other stories. We have that fuel subsidy removal, Nigeria between the devil and the deep blue sea. Another story here on the Nigerian Tribune says as election, and I think that should be all that we have on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, moving on from Nigerian Tribune right now, we'll take the Nation newspaper. Take the Nation newspaper. Big story there says Senate President, Speaker, APC's consensus moves on settle. Betara others press on with aspiration. Oshibajo, Buhari's armed forces investment turned tide against terrorists. Okay, 2023 poll. Religious politics won't help Nigeria. Nasarawa governor warns. Okay, we now see here reveals how he survived electoral scare to win second term. Okay, that story can be found on page 8. King Charles III crowned at London's Westminster Abbey. Police arrest cause of anti-monarchy protesters. World leaders congratulate Charles III and Queen Camilla. Tinubu, I look forward to further engagements with you. Of Nigerian evacuees return. Why smaller planes are sent to evacuate students in Port Sudan. Now, federal government says that story can be found on page 5, and that's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Nation.
Yeah, quite interesting stories that we have on the front pages of our national. I like the fact that it has been captured here. PDP alleges plots to influence presidential election tribunal. Like you said earlier on, the dust is raising already, and a lot of allegations are, spilling out of all of this. Even before the tribunal is starting, we are having the PDP allege some kind of influence in the Presidential Election Tribunal the other day when, you know, we were talking about the fact that the federal government has cancelled the fuel subsidy removal. It was supposed to start next month, which is June, and it has been cancelled. So what happens to the $800 million, you know, that was actually borrowed from the World Bank for subsidies for Nigerians? This is a very big question at this point.
It'll be shifted for a later date. Now they have moved it from, you know, the was we used then.
Oh, is it not 800,000? Yeah, $800 million.
Sorry, $800 million. It will be saved somewhere, and then when the subsidies eventually removed, they will use it.
Anyways, Nigerians, please, this is when you have your call. Please do well to call us on the numbers being displayed on your television screen this morning. Let's get to hear from you. What do you think about the $800 million that was borrowed from the World Bank for subsidy removal to provide for what now? Palliatives for Nigerians. Big questions being asked here by Sislak. What happens? What happens to this? Let's begin to query the government and find out what exactly they will be using this $800 million for, if not for palliatives of Nigerian citizens. We also heard that, is it 5,000 naira now had started, you know, the government had started giving out 5,000 naira.
From the $800 million.
From the $800 million.
That was the plan. I know that there was a funny 5,000 naira disbursement that I was hearing. And I'm like wondering,
what would 5,000 naira do for us actually?
Even a healthy pot of soup cannot be cooked
with 5,000 naira. True that. So the numbers are on your screen. Please do well to call us. We want to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. What do you also think about the Presidential Election Tribunal, that real judicial system where a lot of questions are being raised? Is the judicial system in the country going to be fair enough to give the kind of judgment that Nigerians want to hear? That is a different story altogether. But we want to hear from Nigerians. But again, I think I'm going to say this now. Please, when you do call us, make sure you go straight to the point. Do not deviate from the conversation. Thank you very much. So do well to call us. We need to hear from you. A lot has been happening. Senate presidency is a big tussle in the country. Over the weekend, we saw endorsements coming from David Umahi. We also saw endorsements coming from Ganduje as well, endorsing, of course, the former minister of NDDC now, Godswill, Akpabio, former governor of Akpabio State. And what will that mean, you know, for the minority group in South Nigeria? And what will that mean for the 10th Senate in the National Assembly? A lot of questions are definitely going to be raised.
If we're actually looking at it, glossing over it just a little bit, looking at the likes of Senator Godswill, Akpabio, Clinton, I think it will be phenomenal, because I think he's the man that knows his honors when it's now. The fact that if he comes into that saddle of leadership, it will favor the South and all of the smaller minority groups. He's someone that knows how to carry on the weight of leadership and representation for, you know, people. So it's going to be a great one. I think we have our first call. Let's just take this one right now. Hello, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello, good morning. Okay, so that's a drop call. Feel free to call us in, make your contributions on the issues that we have raised this morning. The fact that the presidential election pre-hearing is starting today. That's big news. What are your expectations as Nigerians? Okay, let's take this particular call. We'll get right back into it. Hello, good morning. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm John Ngamsa. I'm calling from Yola.
John Dempsey from Yola. Okay, good morning. Go
ahead.
Your
signals here are quite clear, and I like your beautiful studio.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say about the elections is simple. Nigerians have been very expectant of the fact that there should be justice. And, you know, given this political era, to give Nigerians some kind of self-evidence in our democracy, I think the judges will have to play it out right. So we don't become a laughing stock of the entire world.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate the
Thank you.
feedback. Yes. So he's saying the judiciary needs to do what they need to do so that there is, faith back in the democracy of the country. Like you said, it's the last hope for everything that is currently going on. But we haven't lost all hope yet because we feel like the judiciary can come in and salvage the situation. Thank you for calling us all the way from Yola this morning. Another story that stands out, what's the CCB asset declaration. I mean, this information was released about 2-3 weeks ago. Why haven't they started? And we now have a couple of days to inauguration and they have not declared their assets.
And there's a caveat there: if you do not declare your assets, there will be no inauguration. Is that not treasonable? Is that not treasonable?
I hope a lot of them default so that they will not take the seats, because these are country. I just like that. We can always laugh over some of these things, but asset declaration is something we are expecting. And they said the declaration is ongoing in 36 states and there will be no swearing in without submission. And then we are seeing the fact that more people are beginning to obtain the forms to declare their assets so that the swearing in can go on. I mean, aren't we all waiting for Tinubu's declaration of assets?
Yeah, everybody's waiting because, of course, he's the president-elect, and whatever it is he does will have more like add to him or have a ripple effect or whatever it is. But he has to lead by example. So we are all waiting to see, what his asset declaration will actually look like. We saw that of President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015, and he says he has one house in Dara and how many cows and oxen and all of that. So we are wondering, that this thing about asset declaration, as you go into government, you declare your asset.
On your way out.
On your way out, you also declare your asset. I think it's also to control corruption and all of that. But do these political office holders actually tell the truth when they are declaring their assets? Is another big question, on the lips of a lot of people. But yeah, I think at this point we just take a short breather now of Senator Godswill Akpabio as the next Senate president in the National Assembly, while some other people are saying, look, we do not stand by that endorsement. We need the president-elect to do what is justifiable. We want justice, fairness, and equity, and all of that. So that's where we are. When we come back, we'll have that as our focus conversation. Just stay with us.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akpabio State, Nigeria. We've already had several conversations on the show. One way to catch conversation. A lot is happening in the country with a few more days to go to the inauguration of, the presidential office and some other offices after that. What is the stand of things for the National Assembly? So our conversation this morning is NASS leadership tussle. Now there is a lot of information that Senator Godswill Akpabio seems to be a raving choice in some quarters, and we want to have this conversation squarely this morning. Joining us on set this morning to have that conversation is Barrister Clifford Thomas, who is a lawyer, journalist, and coordinator at Akpabio Human Rights Community. Good morning. Good to have you on the show.
Well, good morning, Uya. It's nice being back here. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning.
Good morning, viewers. Whenever I'm asked to come here, I feel very elated and excited because I will be meeting with two very beautiful ladies who have nothing more to offer than smiles at me.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us this morning. The National Assembly, 10th National Assembly actually, and the leadership tussle that, has ensued thus far. And just over the weekend, of course, we saw a lot of endowment of both Akpabio, a senator, and of course, former governor of Akwa State. As it stands now, we've seen that David Umahi of Ebonyi State has also dropped his ambition to run for that particular seat, and he's stepping down for Godswill Akpabio. We also saw over the weekend an endorsement from some, of course, APC stalwarts there under the leadership of Ganduje, saying that they endorse the candidacy of Senator Godswill Akpabio. So that's the focus. Assembly with his leadership style and capacity be looking like.
Well, the first thing we must understand is the person of Godswill Akpabio. Godswill Akpabio is a street boy. He's a man who grew up from the ranks on the street and has seen so much. Godswill Akpabio is a deal cutter. He's both a politician, he's a politician, he's a businessman, he's a professional. And he's brought the whole of this to bear with what he does. So Godswill Akpabio is a kind of person that is not ready to take everything. He is willing to share. Godswill Akpabio is into what we call an active, proactive business practice as someone who's involved in profit sharing. He is not the regular politician who wants to take everything. He is the type that believes that it is better for you to have 5% of something than 100% of nothing. Godswill Akpabio is well schooled in people, so he knows. I wish politicians in Akwa Ibom would behave that way. He raises men. He tries his best to put the people he helps as his security. They are the ones who make things happen. Godswill Akpabio will become a Muslim for the purpose of becoming Senate President. Godswill Akpabio will cry with the poor in Kano for the purpose of becoming a Senate President. So he's the type that wants to share something. He has something. It's like Paul, Apostle Paul, who said, I am all things to all men that I might win some for Christ. But he is not winning for Christ. He is winning for himself. So to become Senate President, he will satisfy the needs of a cross-section of the high and mighty. He will not leave them dry. And he comes, as he becomes the Senate President with this kind of attitude, it means that where even the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not want to cite a project, Godswill will cite a project. Will make him cite a project. Godswill Akpabio, like I said, is a deal cutter. He's a street guy. He understands the people more than most politicians do. And he relates so well with people. Like Bola Tinubu has raised men, I think Godswill Akpabio too is raising men. And that might even be a problem for Mr. President, speaking for him. So I think it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a blessing to Nigeria that Godswill Akpabio is the Senate President. What governors, in fact, what so many governors cannot get through Mr. President, they will get it through Godswill Akpabio as Senate President. He has a way of persuading people. And that's made possible because he also has with Godswill Akpabio's Senate presidency. And the problem Akwa Ibom has had, which is a fear we also have right now, the completion of the Bomdipsi ports. We may realize it through Godswill Akpabio's presidency of the Senate. I think Akwa Ibom will stand a better chance to achieving a lot of things and having more men at the federal level with the presidency of Godswill Akpabio.
That sounds like a lot of hope, but now we have like factions within the People's Democratic Party that have stood up to say they do not want the candidacy of Obon Godswill Akpabio as the Senate President. So we're having people try to stand in the way of that endorsement because it sounds more like he's finding more favor for that seat before the president-elect. So let's talk about the factions and uprisings within the People's Democratic Party against his,
It's a very excellent thing to have factions. I mean, factions make you sit up. Factions, those factions, what are they looking for? They are not even looking, they don't have a good replacement for Godswill Akpabio. What they are looking for is give us our own side of the deal. We want you to negotiate with us. We want you to honor us. So PDP is in the minority. There are other parties. Aside from APC being in majority in the Senate, you also have other parties. And the person of Godswill Akpabio is a very likable, Godswill Akpabio is a jolly good fellow. People in the PDP, they have endorsed him. APC have endorsed him. Labour Party has endorsed him. Sorry if I'm speaking like a paid agent of Godswill Akpabio, but I'm trying to be very objective. I'm trying to be very objective here. If someone like Dave Umahi can say, I'm stepping down, even though he may not be qualified as a ranking senator to become Senate President, but even when Godswill went in on his first term, he became Senate Minority Leader. So anything is possible in Nigeria.
So is he qualified?
Who?
Godswill Akpabio.
For what?
Is he qualified to stand, the seat of the party?
He's overqualified.
Okay.
He's eminently qualified. Let me use those words. Eminently qualified to be Senate President. So the factions are a very normal thing. If there are no factions, it will look like
The
road to hell. The road to hell, where the person becomes a Leviathan as a leader. It becomes a mighty colossus, the alternative to things you are doing. And that way you'll be able to have a better quantum of knowledge, proactive knowledge on what to do. So in a government without opposition is a dead government. It's a government that is irresponsible. So opposition makes a government very, very responsible.
Okay.
So it's a good thing. Godswill Akpabio has a tough skin. Let him go and fight. We cannot be doing the fight for him now because it is not in our pulse fight. It's his beat.
Okay,
and I wish him the best.
Yeah, still talking about opposition here. We see that the Southeast Caucus is kicking against this particular consensus and demanding, I'm going to put it in their words now, that the president-elect thrives on the part of equity, unity, and fairness. So at this point, it makes me wonder, what is that we had the likes of Joseph Wayas from the minority group being the Senate president? And aside from that, I don't think anybody from this minority group has actually gotten that seat. So when we are talking about fairness, justice, and equity, what do we mean by that?
Between 1999, I think the first leg, persons from the 5 Southeast states are Senate president.
Exactly.
And the South has never been Senate president before. And if equity and justice requires that the South be considered, justice requires that the South, Akpabio particularly, gave the APC a substantial number of votes, I think 800 and something, to elect the president. And how many did Abia give? No, so they gave minority votes, and they fought to ensure that nothing happened during the elections. And you are saying that justice requires. What kind of justice? What is justice? Justice means giving a man his due. And what is the due of the Southeast with respect to South presidency? No, what's the due of the South with respect to Senate presidency? It means the South needs to produce the Senate president. And in producing the Senate president, positions in the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Reps, have been divided across. Now, I understand that by today, the National Working Committee of the APC will be meeting to agree on the zoning. And if the APC National Working Committee is agreeing on the zoning, PDP should have agreed. Labour Party should agree. And they should harmonize their positions and say, okay, in politics, let us see how to trade. Horses are traded so that you can talk of justice. Justice, to my mind, means that Godswill Akpabio of the South should become the Senate president.
Initially also, very serious issues. Initially also, the president-elect had been applauded for his stance of non-committal towards anybody, more like he wasn't giving covering or assent to anyone. We had Odius Okalu, who was like one of the loudest speakers for that particular state. So in one breath, just talk about the president-elect giving his backing for a particular candidate. Now, that is something that even certain people within the APC are saying that it is not good for the race of that Kalu or,
The president-elect, like a normal, rational politician worldwide, should not be seen saying, or not be heard, saying, I support candidate A or candidate B. Exactly. It will be a minus for him. But his body language will betray where he belongs. And his body language, after all the deals, deals or anything, promise him so much. There are other factors, there are other dealers who are involved in this. And they are trying to horse trade. Some people even trade what they don't have. But Godswill Akpabio has so much to offer. He was successful as governor. He was successful in his first term as president, Senate president. He was successful as a minister. And above all, he's a very successful husband. If you can be a successful husband, a successful father, you can actually govern the community of men very well. So I believe that Mr. President-elect must not say who is supporting, but his body language will always betray who is supporting.
I think I'm going to toe the line of this thought you just shared with us now to how viable do you think the Senate presidency or the Senate will look like when we have a president that is saying, look, this is who I prefer the most? Because when we look at even the Ninth Assembly that is just wrapping up, many of the criticism that has trailed that assembly is the fact that they were just toothless bulldogs. You know, they were more like stooges to the president. Some of the debates that they held was just to fulfill all righteousness. At the end of the day, it is the decision of the president that holds sway. So when we say that, you know, the president or president-elect is having a body language that suggests this is my preferred candidate, how will that assembly look like? We are looking at an assembly that will make policies that are citizen-oriented. We are looking at an assembly that would definitely deliver on the edges of democracy for the common Nigerian. So won't we still have a replica or replication of the 9th Assembly for the 10th Assembly?
Well, any leadership of the National Assembly or even the state houses of assembly that is endorsed by the president or by the governor takes up automatically as a rubber stamp. Policies, I think a particular section, I think chapter 2, I've forgotten the exact portion of the Constitution now, says that the National Assembly shall legislate for the good governance of the country. And where the person of Mr. President interferes with it, it is no longer for the good governance of the government of the country. I remember the Senate presidency of Chuba Okadibo. May so rest in peace. Chuba Okadibo was very independent-minded. He was very independent-minded, and we need somebody who is very independent-minded. The truth is that most often people believe that an independent-minded National Assembly leadership will fight Mr. President. That of the House of Assembly will fight the governor. But it is not so. It is to keep the president on his toes and let him work. And then show the president a couple of things which the president should do, which the president may have overlooked. And it is sad that in Nigeria we have very strong individuals, very strong persons. We don't have institutions, very strong institutions. An independent leadership of the Senate, of the National Assembly, will encourage and promote strong institutions. A particular bill passed for the good governance of Nigeria. You legislate for the good governance of Nigeria. So Mr. President will not sit down and believe that is the alpha and omega of Nigeria. He knows that once this bill, he doesn't assent to that bill for whatever reason, after 30 days, they will override him and pass the bill into law. So most presidents are afraid of this. So they come with intimidation, they come with threats, they come with inducement, they come with anything that will make assembly, who should liaise with the senators to say, please consider this. This is an executive bill which comes from the president. A couple of laws, a couple of bills which were passed to law and some were assented to by Mr. Buhari, President Buhari, are not specifically people-oriented. And we see Tinubu, the person of Mr. Tinubu. Tinubu is a people person, is a people's person. He's somebody who understands so much. Let's forget the thing people call his avarice. He wants to grab everything. Let us see how does he relate with people. If he relates with people very well, it means that his policies will be people-oriented. And I see him influencing the National Assembly to upturn a lot of laws in existence, which are actually far from the people. And he will want to get laws that he will want to surprise people. He has received a lot of damning condemnation, so he will want to play his way to the gallery.
That's Tinubu you're talking
yes,
about.
Yes, Tinubu. Huh? So whoever becomes Senate president must be ready for that. They are going to have uphill task, all of them.
Okay, so another issue that we are looking at here is let's x-ray the option of an Odjus or can.
Very early. He started his
Coming
lobbying
in
early.
with the leg of it's my turn. And I know we've already established the fact that the South has never had a Senate president, but the Southeast they've really been on that saddle. But when Odjus Okado comes out to say it is my turn, and that seat should be played into his table, whether it's by lobbying or it's by consensus by the parties involved. What do you think that Odjus Okado as
You should be ready to sell a part of Nigeria, to sell it to whoever, to the highest bidder. Odjus Okado is qualified as an individual to be Senate president, but you must also appreciate one fact, which people don't like saying. There's a particular phobia against persons from the Southeast. Even though, let's wait, at the end of today, we will know where the National Working Committee of the APC zones it to, where the PDP zones it to. The PDP may not be able to produce a Senate presidency, but Odjus Okado is another deal breaker. He can negotiate anything for whatever thing. He can become, he's already a Muslim Christian. He can become anything to get anything he wants. But Godswill Akpabio is more desperate than him. So I don't see Anujo who's Odjus Okado Senate presidency. I rather see an Akpabio's Senate presidency. But for whatever it's worth, anybody can vie for it, including anybody from the Northeast, Northwest, from Coast.
I think this is quite interesting. When you keep saying that they can do whatever it takes for them to clinch that ticket as Senate presidency. Let's even come back to Akpabio again, since he's our focus for this morning. Doesn't that speak of desperation here? And is that a good characteristics for someone, a leader, to have? That desperation.
Show me
I think we saw some years back where he was actually banned, and I know the backlashing that trailed Akpabio for that particular action that he did. So desperation. Come on.
I want to ask you, and I will still ask you, show me one politician who is not desperate. No, you don't know. I'm very sure you don't know, because there's no politician who is not desperate. Politicians, one of the things that make the Nigerian politician a politician, even the devil is not as desperate as the Nigerian politician. The Nigerian politician is very desperate, he can sell half. In fact, there was a time they said, the allocation of the state, they can mortgage six months allocation to the state.
So is that a good thing to do? Because when you're saying that out of desperation, I can sell my whole community just because I want the Senate presidency.
You see,
let's take it back. Sorry, sir. We'll take it back a little to Cross River State. The ceding of the peninsula now to the Cameroonians. The people of Bakassi and Cross River State are still suffering from the weight of that decision that was taken by Donald Duke and, of course, Senator Florence Itagiwa up till this moment. So when we say that we are desperate, why exactly are we desperate to the detriment of citizens?
The Nigerian politician has never had the interest of the citizen at heart. Interest that is captured. So let's not talk about Bakassi. If we talk of Bakassi, 5 hours will not be enough. The aborigines of Bakassi were not involved in the process that brought up the historical facts or the legal facts about their territory. So they sold Bakassi out because of desperation. You know the interest of Atiku Abubakar. You know the interest of the French government. You know the interest of the Cameroonian government. Those were interests that were coagulated into the entire process. So the Nigerian politician, I said, and I want to restate, is more desperate than the devil himself. Even the devil is a learner where it comes to desperation, where the Nigerian politician is. So let's look at this other part. Tribalism is said to be bad. But do you know that there's a functional part of tribalism which is not dysfunctional? Somebody from your ethnic group becomes Senate president, and he remembered that, you are very good at this job. He picks you because he knows you and puts you somewhere. You go and give testimony in church. You call for a party to celebrate it. You become a big madam by then. And then you also occupy a position. You will not remember the Notna, whom you are not close to. You remember one of your cousins whom you know may be qualified for this. Whether it's qualified or not, you bring him in or bring her in. That is tribalism. But tribalism to you at that material time is functional. Tribalism to the man who is a victim, who is not a beneficiary of your largesse, is dysfunctional. He cries about it. Desperation is a tool. It's functional. So in the process of the structural functionalism theory, you look at the structure that functions effectively to give you the results you need. It's all about results. And it says the end justifies the means. Nobody wants to look at the ethics behind using that means. People are interested in getting results. Provided you get results, damn the means. That's the product of desperation.
So at the end of the day, desperation is not such a bad thing as long as you know how to channel it into.
I didn't say it's not a bad thing.
Into productivity.
It will be the fault of those who trained me, including my parents, for me to say desperation is a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's a bad thing.
Okay, it's a bad thing.
Because the upbringing you have has clearly shown that any time somebody is desperate, you say, no, this is bad. You shouldn't be desperate. So it's not your fault as a person. It's the fault of your parents.
Wrote the man Godswill Akpabio. Even when he was governor, right? There were a lot of people that said he was very wasteful. Now, taking that kind of characteristics to become the Senate president, won't that affect in any way?
Well, for you to say Godswill Akpabio is what you said it is, it's not from my mouth, people will hear.
I'm not saying that is what he is. I'm saying that these are some of the criticisms that have trailed him, even while he was governor.
Yes, on that seat. And in Nigeria, you don't need the most righteous person to govern. You don't need a very good person to govern. You need somebody who is a little bit bad, a little bit good. In fact, the bad could outweigh the is being good, because that's a practical thing. All this while we've been shouting, we need a righteous person, somebody who's eminently qualified and all of that. We brought Buhari now. Didn't we bring Buhari, who has a affidavit in the name of Skusat? And now we have also brought a Tinubu who was called Bob Chicago and was touted not to have had. No, the international community needs somebody with a bag load of bad dossier so that they can present his dossier to you and say, remember your name, the name you use today as Bola Tinubu is the same person that attended Chicago State University as a female. You claim you come from Lagos State, but you are actually from Osun State. You cut these deals, and we have also a bag, a dossier to show that you were involved in drugs. We have a dossier that you were involved with the mafia. So, but for somebody who is very clean, who comes with a clean past, clean record, and is eminently qualified, the international community has more than 60% influence of the choice of who becomes president of Nigeria. I am saying this with all sense of humility, all sense of responsibility. Nigeria is in a committee of other nations. And why did they kill Patrice Lumumba? You notice that those who were the colonial masters of the various countries in Africa, having partitioned to them, it would be a threat to their mining raw materials from here. It would be a threat to Nigeria owning 4 refineries and not refining 1 drop of oil. And then the person will come and say, collapse all those refineries, let us have modular refineries, and we'll begin to produce our own. It will be a threat for them round-tripping on the high sea, oil on the high sea. It will be a threat for them, because we will start manufacturing. We will have sufficient power and we'll start manufacturing, and it will be a threat to them. So the international community has a way of serving as a puppeteer to control third world nations. So this is one thing that's happening to Nigeria today. And we must not mistake that fact. We must not run away from the truth. We must tell ourselves the truth as it is.
Away from all of this, because we're suffering from the weight of bad leadership. That's just the truth of the matter.
No,
the weight is too crunching.
No, we are not. We are not. We are enjoying it because those who claim to be our leaders are the beneficiaries of the process of this this sort of alignment. You don't have powers to put a policy up. In fact, were you aware that the IMF in 1986 in this country gave us conditionalities for us to collect loan? And since we started, and some of the loans are tied to their products, they manufacture it and give to you. No, the IMF does not have the interest of Nigeria at heart. The World Bank too. And I say it, I want them to challenge me. Don't have the interest of Nigeria at heart. How would they come and teach us that borrowing is a good thing? And we have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed to pay salaries, borrowed to fund the institutions, not borrowing to manufacture. Why would it be that the World Bank will come and tell you, we give you monies to go and do publicity and enlightenment about HIV/AIDS, about that useless thing that came up in COVID. They didn't give us money to do research and development. They don't want you to do it. And we have the solutions in this country. Do you know that we have the solution to malaria? Vaccine. And you pay billions of naira for it. They don't mean well for us. So let us live with what we have. You try to change it, they kill you. And what they want to do is that they give you an alternative. They give you their territories. They give you houses. They give you opportunities to travel people. So the change that you desire is with them, not with us.
The change that we desire is with them, is not with us. But great conversation. I like the way that Barrister Clifford painted the hope of Godswill Akpabio as Senate President. If he gets there earlier, we were saying the South will have something to rejoice, because we are very sure of the fact that although he's coming for everyone, like Barrister Clifford said, he will become a Muslim to, you know, do to
get that position.
He may become a Muslim.
He will become a rice, you know, seller to just to get the point. I'm going to see a 10th assembly that will be driven with people-related policies. I think that is a major problem that you've just broken down, and it's been great conversation with you this morning, and that has to be a very big thank you to Barrister Clifford Thomas, who is a lawyer and our
human rights community. But any final words from you? I think our time is up, but in a few seconds.
I'll call on Nigerians, please always ask questions. Don't fail to ask questions.
Yeah.
With the tribunals hearing opening today, what are your words of advice to Nigerians?
Well, I think the tribunal, without sounding very negative and pessimistic, the tribunal will run for 3 days. What were they doing all this while? It will take you like 6 weeks at most, 4 weeks, 6 weeks to study all the plethora gone, and you're saying we're starting on the 9th. What about the appeals that will come from there? The law says 180 days.
Our time is up, sir. All right.
Wow.
Thank you very much. Your habitats now and all of that. But we want to say a very big thank you to our viewer and of course our production team as well. You guys are doing great. We'll definitely see you again tomorrow for another edition of Rise and Shine Daily. Until then, keep being great at what you do.
Thank you. My name is Uyai Aneka, and it's a wrap for today. Let's do this again tomorrow. Leave you now with Sports Central, Blyden Nikem, and Isaac.